EastEnders, Coronation Street. These shows come on every single night. My nan watches it repeatedly. And I know most people in the UK do. They average on millions of viewers every single night. Why do these people tune in every single night between like 6 and 9 on an evening in their own free time to watch soaps? It's because of the drama. The dramas of life. The dramas. Every day somebody's getting murdered or getting raped or some kind of drugs bust or there's something happening and going on. So people tune back in to see that kind of diversity, the ups and downs. How one person can fall and then rise again. How something terrible or tragic can happen and then they can overcome it or not overcome it. Ultimately, we tune in for that. Let's imagine God was watching us and God was looking down on the earth and it was a Garden of Eden. He would think it was boring as hell with nothing going on. Oh, there goes Larry. He's just fell in love. That's it. End of the story. Happily ever after. There goes Mary. She just fell happily ever after. There'd be no context to it, you know. It would be a wonderful world and for a couple of months it would be absolutely great and then everyone would get bored, if I'm completely honest. The duality of life makes life exciting. Essentially, the ups and the downs, the balance, the fight between the evil and the good in the world makes the story a story, makes things worth living. You know, ultimately, if there was just evil, what would evil do with itself? Let's look on the other side instead of just like, what would evil do with itself? Evil fights itself, or potentially it could, but evil would just be sitting there being evil all on its own because it would have no good to fight. And the same with good. Good would just be there being good with nothing else to do apart from being good. You know, we all know how a battery works and we know the positive sits at the top and the negative sits at the bottom. We call this heaven and hell and we sit right in the middle. We sit in the perfect balance between positive and negative energy. We are duality and that's what this plane is. When you release yourself and you awaken and you verge on the edge of enlightenment, you can see that all is one. And there is no duality in the world because what is duality and what is rights and wrongs? You know, rights and wrongs change over time and change over place as well. In India and other places in Asia, you know, you can marry a young girl at 13 years old. If you tried to do that in the UK or America, you'd be locked up. So that's just one example. But in terms of what's right and what's wrong in the world, changes around the world and has changed throughout time. Look at the changes we've had in law and how civilization just lives in terms of moral standards and everything. The changes have been immense. So over time and place, rights and wrongs change, and they change on a subjective level from one person's perspective. It's impossible to see from every perspective the billions of people in the world. If only we could, that would be complete unity. You know, when awakenings do happen, that's ultimately what you do. You don't look through every single person's eyes. You realise you are every single person. And ultimately, there is no duality, there is no right and wrong, because behind their mask is you, playing the role of every single person. And that is the highest truth. And, you know, people might not like this truth because of the darkness and the things that happen in the world, and they want the world to be good. They want it to be a better place. But that's their ego talking. Just because it's a good ego and it's in the right place, it doesn't mean it's a right one. It's a perspective and an ego saying that this shouldn't happen. Where other egos and perspectives in the world might be completely different to that opinion, but still what is right and what is wrong. Obviously, we know deep in our hearts what's light and what's dark, what's right and what's wrong. But there is no definition of this, and it's only down to a perspective we can never see objectively. So, falling back to, you know, how movies work, because the world ultimately is a stage, and we are its actors and the characters upon the story, his story. You know, history is his story. Who is his story? It's your story, it's my story. The guy behind the mask, God, it's his story. That's why it's history. We are playing the role of every single person, the good and the evil, and behind that is the consciousness playing that. Who's to say that the evil person chose to be the evil person and the good person chose to be the good person? It's the same with the video that I put on about the prostitute and the priest, or the prostitute and the preacher. Did that prostitute choose to be a prostitute? It was ultimately a condition that she was born into. She knew that that was her role, and she lived it with grace, because that's what she was sent there to do. Like every single one of us, this is our role. Whether we're going through traumas and pain, or we've got riches upon the world, it does not matter, because that's what we're here to do. That's our role. Some of us are truth seekers, and we make videos to try and wake other people up. That's what we were sent here for. We can't tell other people to start doing the same thing, because they weren't sent here to do that. Every person's got their own purpose on this earth. And every person's got a time to awake. So if there is such a thing as awakening, every person needs to awaken in their own time. Just like our egg hatches. Ultimately, does it in its own time. It can't be rushed. And with this awakenings and realisation, all that really come is the idea that everything is one. And depending on the person and the consciousness that sees that and how intact that ego is, it's not all good. There's people that have had enlightenments and awakenings that have turned to the dark side, doing what they shall will, because they realise that to an extent nothing really matters, and they are the person behind every mask. And these are the people running the world today. These are the things that they're hiding from you. The people running the world today, I am sure in my heart, know what I know, and know the power that they wield and the power in every single one of you. It's just that they know it. And because they know it, they do what they want with that. If we all knew it, it would be a different world. But this is what it is. This world will have ups and downs, just like a roller coaster ride or the two ends of a battery. We'll go through stages of places we call golden eras of peace and tranquility. And we'll go through stages of war, destruction and chaos. Because that is the nature of our realm. That is the very nature of you, whether you want to admit it or not, including myself. We both have equal parts in us, that light and dark. And until you bring that light forth, that dark will never go. I control the darkness. I don't not have the darkness. The darkness was the ego, and we're aware of what that is. But ultimately, you hear that saying, we're all sent here for a reason. We are all sent here for a reason. You no different to the Prime Minister or your local priest or someone on the other complete side of the world. We all have been sent here for a reason, and that is our role. And we all must carry out our role, whether it's good or bad. You really think deep inside your mind, half the actions you actually undertake, do you actually decide? You probably sit in your mind saying, yeah, I do. No, you don't. A lot of your actions are spontaneous, almost robotic. It's afterwards. Think of all the people in prison. Do you really think they really all premeditated everything they did? A lot of it was spontaneous action. And because of that spontaneous action, they're now looking back on it in reflection, wishing they hadn't done that action. Because they didn't even control that action. We're all here for our roles. And the most spiritual people, in the sense the ones most connected with the oneness, will see that. We'll see through the murderer. We'll see through the dictator. We'll see through all the nastiness in the world and see past that mask. And see that the consciousness in them is just the same within you. It's just carrying out a particular role. And whether you like it or not, this is why seemingly duality exists, although it doesn't. But if you really want to look at it in an intellectual, knowledgeable manner, think about everything that I've just said. The fact, if everything was just positive, or if everything was just negative, how things would really be, and whether that really is possible in anything. We know in any terms of power or generation of any forms, you need the two forms, the two sides, the positive and the negative. We know how a magnet works. You need the positive and the negative. If you've got two positive sides or two negative sides, a magnet wouldn't work the way it does. It has to be this way. And it's only the ego, the subjective opinion, telling us it shouldn't be that way. Have faith, and your story is your story. You've made no mistakes. You are beautiful. And every person is beautiful. If only we could see past the masks, past the actions, and see each other as true brothers and sisters, would we truly be in union? One day that will come. Love and peace.